Canadian parent is fighting for the right to not give their baby a gender after arguing that a simple biological examination cannot uncover the child's true identity. Well, I suppose that's correct. It's not about their true identity. The M or F designation on their birth certificate is simply about their reproductive organs. Oh, also, a Toronto-born man went to Afghanistan to kill Americans, successfully killed an American, was captured and convicted of murder and war crimes, and then he sued Canada for $20 million, but don't worry, we only paid him 10.5. This is Corey Doty. Now, the article I'm reading says Doty, who is a non-binary trans parent, but I'm going to interpret it as Doty, who claims to be a non-binary trans parent, has been trying to get British Columbia to issue Cyril a birth certificate. That's baby Cyril there. But Doty refuses to pick M or F as the sex designation, and instead wants something like U. Now, Cyril hasn't been issued a birth certificate, but this is an image of Cyril's health card, and I don't know, I've had trouble with this before, whether or not the resolution is going to be high enough. So believe me when I tell you that under sex, it says U. The letter U. As in unknown, unidentified, unassigned, undetermined. It doesn't matter. Because this gender theory, non-binary gender spectrum, is predicated on the idea that sex and gender are independent of each other. Which means this, you, as a sex designation, is incorrect. By the nature of the argument, it can't be correct. And whoever issued this health card should be fired. Because this is ridiculous. This is unacceptable. Doty is quoted as saying, "I'm recognizing them as a baby and trying to give them all the love and support to be the most whole person that they can be outside of the restrictions that come with the boy box and the girl box." And that, to me, just demonstrates the lack of understanding of the gender theory that gender and sex are separate, and of biology in general. You see, Doty, boys don't have a box. Doty continues, "When I was born, doctors looked at my genitals and made assumptions about who I would be, and those assignments followed me and followed my identification throughout my life. Those assumptions were incorrect, and I ended up having to do a lot of adjustments since then." Well, I don't know how to say this because everybody seems to think that these things are derogatory, right? To say that, well, Doty, it's 'cause you're fucking weird. All right? You're abnormal. There's nothing wrong with being abnormal, but you are. And the assumption that, you're going to be normal like, say, 98 to 99% or more of all people, that you're going to be pretty much like everybody else. That's not an unreasonable assumption. And you've decided to solve the problem of what is a reasonable assumption with the unreasonable assumption that your kid might be trans or non-binary. So you've replaced what are the regular problems that everyone's familiar with and that we know how to handle with some out there ridiculous problem. And if your kid turns out to not be non-binary or trans, you're still going to have to do all those fucking adjustments. Way to solve the fucking problem. I found this part particularly amusing. Doty said that they are raising Cyril in such a way that until they have the sense of self and command of vocabulary to tell me who they are. You're waiting till they have a sense of self? So you're waiting till they're what, 25, 30? Like, I know 30-year-olds that have a grade 3 level vocabulary, and you're expecting this from a baby? You're going to wait for a baby to tell you who they are? This whole phenomenon of non-binary gender identities, to me, it just smacks of sheer confusion. And I know it sounds corny that confused people at, young ages, say 18 to 25, they have to do something. They have to go out and find themselves. And it's such a corny thing that you go and you put yourself in the world because you don't know where you fit in it, and then you decide that you want to be here, but it's not quite right, so you have to carve the world, and the world carves you back until you both fit together. And instead of doing that, what people have decided to do is take the confusion that usually leads to some ridiculous, corny, finding oneself mission. They take the confusion and label it. Because that confusion is very subjective. It's very spectrum-like. And they put a sticker on it and say that sticker is my identity, rather than going and carving an identity out for themselves. And you're gonna encourage the child to do that from fucking birth? If you squint at the right moment, you can follow along. I called it in my first video that any gender-neutral pronoun in the English language will ultimately be synonymous with the word it. And this publication has referred to a human being, a human baby, as it. Dodie, who is transsexual, says they want their child to be able to choose its own gender when it is old enough. Way to be, Dodie. Reduced your own baby, your kid, to an inanimate object. Dodie has a lawyer on the case, Barbara Findley, who is an asshole who doesn't spell her name with capital letters. Fuck off. Are you fucking kidding me? Anyway, Findley said British Columbia only issues birth certificates with a male or female gender designation, but that's not quite right, is it? British Columbia only issues birth certificates with a male or female sex designation. Other provinces, including Ontario and Alberta, and since those are the only two mentioned by name, I'm going to go ahead and assume that those are the only two, are reviewing their policy with a view to including a third option of a non-binary gender. Funny to note that that Ontario is currently dominated by the Liberal Party, and Alberta is currently dominated by the New Democratic Party, the NDP. How to describe these parties? The Liberal Party is like the kind of wannabe Communist Party, and the NDP is like one wrong push and we're all in the fucking gulags party. Now the other thing. I don't want to talk about Omar Khadr. I don't want to talk about what he did. I don't want to talk about the money he's getting and the fact that it comes out of every Canadian's pockets. I will mention that the murmurings I've heard through radio, internet, interpersonal relationships, and the anecdotes, people aren't happy. They're not happy about this outcome, not at all. And it's unfortunate that it took something like this to wisen us up, straighten us out. But people are fucking pissed. And they're not pissed like, let's go get Omar Khadr. You know why? Because guess what? This is Canada, and we're not fucking retarded. I know our milk comes in bags, but we're not idiots. We know what the problem is now. Lots of people who didn't see it before see it now. That this whole tolerance for intolerance crap, the PC crap, it's not going to fly anymore. A lot of people are turning away from it. And it's unfortunate that this is the kind of event that it took to be the catalyst for, say, ousting the Right Honorable Prime Minister Justin Trudeau in the next cycle and getting in not even a conservative minority, maybe a conservative majority. So, silver linings or something. I'll link the wiki so you can do your own research if you want about this guy. But, I'm not talking about it. Happy Independence Day. Happy 4th of July. Brexit 1776. Original Brexit OG. Yeah, you know. Blow off some fireworks. Get drunk. You guys are alright. Relevant links to shit I said in the description? Maybe. I'm Irving Twin. Like, subscribe, or don't. It's a free country. At least it used to be.